Oh dear. I can't wait for the comments of this video. What is up, guys? And welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we are back, finally, with F1 23, My Team Career Mode, episode number 19 for the Mexican Grand Prix. I sincerely apologize about the lengthy break between this episode and the last. Over 2 weeks. Where has the time gone? I literally felt like I did one of these videos like 3 days ago. But that is the F1 Manager 23 effect. I am so sorry, guys. We are back, finally, with this series. I did record a couple of episodes in advance. But yeah, that wasn't enough to keep the uploads going. In the background, I have decided, for this race only, to bring a special livery. And you are looking at it right now. Say g'day to the new wavy Marduk Motorsport livery for the Mexican Grand Prix. I know it's bit out of sorts to do a special livery for a place like this, but I thought, you know, there's only a few rounds left to go. I don't really want to do it at Las Vegas. That's pretty cliche. Let's do it here and celebrate the beaches of Mexico with some golden waves. Fits the color theme. I love the details on the wheel rim there. I love an F1 23 livery that actually has some customization to the rims, which is a bit of a rarity on this game, unfortunately. But yeah, here's the state of play. We are fourth worst car, still in the title fight against the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull. It's currently a Charles Leclerc runaway season at this stage, but we are on some heavy copium right now, trying to convince ourselves that we are still in the fight to win this Drivers' Championship, even with the you know, red flags, whole shafted win from Hungary, which we need to factor into the standings as well. Without that, we are a long way away, but with some wins, some upgrades, it might just be possible. This could be the greatest underdog story of all time. But we have to hope a lot of things go our way for the rest of the season for us to get there. We've got a lot of regulation changes heading our way for Season 2, and we're actually running out of upgrades to put on this car in time to make it on for this season. So we have to make a decision pretty much now as to whether we rush upgrades to go on in a race or two's time, and then kind of focus on consolidating upgrades later. But yeah, after this race, if things don't go well, we will go full ham on consolidating next year's car. For now, we are still filtering in the last of our upgrades for this season. We do have a few resource points, and we'll get a few more after Friday practice. But I think after this Friday practice session has gone through, that will be it. Also, change the logo for this race, because why the hell not? Yeah, we're just YOLO like that. We changed the logo of our team just because we can, and I'm the boss, and no one can say no to me. Anyway, here is the updated car performance index. We are still around about 7th, 8th best car, which isn't ideal, but the gap from where we are to the race leaders isn't that great. It's less than 50 performance points. So a good setup, a driver on form, good strategy, a whole number of different things, you can overcome that deficit to the race leaders, which is what we've been doing for the majority of this season. We've been very much on form with setups and driving really well and making the most of strategy and clinging on to the DRS of others. So yeah, just about in the fight, but we could do with a few more upgrades to really bolster our attack for the rest of this season. And to do that, we're going to go ham on a major front downforce upgrade for the next episode or two's time. So that will be, I think, the final upgrade we do in Season 1 of F1 23 Career Mode. It is time for qualifying for the Mexican Grand Prix. Before you guys get too comfy and settled into this video, if you guys could leave a like and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. Would help the old algorithm and let me know that you guys want to see more of these F1 23 career mode videos. Thank you guys, appreciate you, and yeah, let's get on with the rest of the video where we're heading into qualifying. This is, if I haven't mentioned already, a very good track for me. In the past, we've got a lot of wins in career modes, a very clutch time in the calendar for this track to come up, because we very much need a win. I think it's win the race or bust for our championship this season. We're pretty much, you know, with our backs against the wall. There's not many points on offer left for this season. Basically, if Charles Leclerc outscores us at all, it's game over, essentially. There's, I think, 100 points left in the season, plus maybe a sprint race. And we're still, you know, nearly 100 points behind. So, yeah, we need to do some winning, and we need Charles Leclerc to do some DNFing. So let's hope Ferrari can do their thing, and we can all meet in the middle in the last race of the season. Qualifying 2 then, we made P6. Devin Butler knocked out in Q1, unfortunately. Finding a little bit more pace as we get our way through the weekend. I think we did a 15.8 in the first session, 15.5 in Q2. Let's see what Q3 awaits for us. But as we head out to start the final qualifying of this race weekend, it is actually raining, but the DRS hasn't been disabled yet, so dries are actually quicker than intermediates at this stage, but only just. This is probably going to be the crossover point. Unfortunately, we were one of the last cars to get out there. We didn't realize how wet it was until we actually hit go to track, so we missed a bit of a trick there. DRS now gets disabled. If we were a little bit more on it and hit go to track right at the start of the session without looking at the weather forecast or anything, we might have been able to get in a pretty good time. But the AI are always very good in these conditions where it's changeable. They've got their traction control. They're always optimally right on the pace from word go, whereas a player always has to build up their pace to get up to that kind of level. 5 minutes to go in the session, and we're going to go Hail Mary on intermediate tires because, well, the dries just aren't going to cut it anymore. So hopefully we can find a little bit more pace on the qualifying lap that we did. The majority of the lap was done on dries on a wet track. First lap was a bit poo. We messed up the first chicane, so that was not ideal. We're going to go again right at the end of the session here because I feel like there's time to be made in sectors 2 and 3, maybe even sector 1, because it was only the first chicane we were able to get in on dries before the DRS got disabled. And you can see after sector, not even sector 1, we're already up on our intermediate tires. So yeah, there's absolutely time to find here. And there are people who put in times after I did. So the likes of Ocon and Gasly, maybe even those immediately ahead of us, Verstappen, Bottas, we could potentially beat on intermediate tyres here if we absolutely smash in a time here. So we are going green to the middle sector, 4 tenths up as we approach the stadium section for the last time. Try and get the rotation in here. You can see all the time we're picking up here because we were just slipping and sliding on dry compound tyres at the start of the session. Rounding through the last corner. Not made up as much time as I would have liked out of the traction zone up to the line, and it's a 6/10 improvement. Guarantees P6 in this race. Ahead of Max Verstappen, ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Charles Leclerc, unfortunately, championship rival, P1 to start this race weekend. And on pole by 9/10 of a second. I think he got the best of the track conditions. I think maybe it was probably the better strategy to go on intermediate tyres right at the start of the session when the track was at its driest. Others who went out on softs weren't so lucky. That is utter dominance from Charles Leclerc and the last situation that we needed heading into this do-or-die race. It is a must-win for us. Hopefully there are some grid penalties for those around us. Can bring us closer to the fight. I'd love to be on the front 2 rows of the grid, potentially in striking distance of Charles Leclerc. Hell, maybe even Charles Leclerc himself will have a grid penalty to start this race, and that would certainly spice things up to start this Mexican Grand Prix. We got some rain in the race, and that as well will make the strategy very interesting. So here we go. Potentially for the last time this season, we are in the fight for the championship. Let's make the most of this race and take some points off of that lead from Charles Leclerc.
Back in the 60s, Mexico City would host the season-ending race, a party of motor racing. Well, we might not host the finale now, but Mexico hosts a party nonetheless. So welcome to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the Mexico City Grand Prix. 17 corners then at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, 10 to the right and 7 to the left. And all of them will have to be tackled in difficult wet conditions here today. No DRS assistance either, at least not for the start of the race. But the best overtaking opportunities will still be down into turn 1 or shortly afterwards into turn 4. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Benjamin,
Yay!
Bottas, Gasly, Joe, Russell, Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Hulkenberg, Albon, Butler, Verstappen, Ocon, De Vries, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Sargent, Sainz, Magnussen, and Oscar Piastri.
Sorry, I had to throw that huge in there. I was just too excited. We are starting on the second row of the grids, which is what we needed. We needed a bit of luck to get us up the order and in the fight with Charles Leclerc. It is a super long run into turn one, and this isn't like games of past where you're guaranteed a bad start. We can actually fight from here. So we're going to try our hardest to get into the lead off this start. It's about 10 years ago. I was fighting for the win in a championship race at Brazil. Probably no one remembers at this point, but I was in the Force India and I went from 4th to 1st to lead that race and went on to win the championship. Slightly different circumstances today, but the goal is the same: to win the race, to beat our championship rivals. We're going to hopefully get off to a good start. I'm going to dump my battery heading into turn one. And yeah, from there we'll try and hang on these intermediate tyres. It is probably the line ball as to whether the Inters will make it to the halfway stage where it is going to dry up. So bit of tyre conservation on the way. But before then, let's nail this start. Away we go for the Mexican Grand Prix. And it looks like an okay getaway. Heading up into 4th, 5th gear, up into overtake. And we're absolutely flying past the race leaders. Up the middle of Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris. We get in the slipstream of the Mercedes. We've got the Alpine heading up our inside, heading into turn one. A bit of squeezing on the Ferrari. And we're going round the outside of Lando Norris and into the lead of this Mexican Grand Prix. Albeit with a warning for contact against Charles Leclerc. We now lead this race, and that is absolutely clutch. Here's the onboard of Charles Leclerc right now, who's fighting away with Valtteri Bottas, I want to say, in the McLaren on this first lap. You can see he's down to P4, 5, maybe even P6 if others can get involved and push him further back in this race. The further back he falls, the greater chance we have of keeping this championship alive today. I think a win and P2 would just about be okay for us to stay alive in this race. But here's the replay of the start. We went in super deep into turn one, trying to just get the lead there. And it worked out very well, as you'll see from probably the best angle you'll see. Getting the slipstream off the Mercedes, pressure on from the Alpine. A lot of people heading into turn one. It meant there was very high stakes heading into there. We had to commit deep. It has scored to the Ferrari wide, and after all that, we now lead this race. After the first two sectors, major mistake heading into the third sector section. I always forget the name of this section. I just call it the stadium section. But a massive back end loss. The rear end completely disconnecting. Maybe a lack of rear downforce there contributing to that. But also probably misjudging the conditions and the limits of the car. This is our first lap. We're kind of finding our feet as we go along in this race. Just trying to find what the limits of the track and the car are. But yeah, just about getting away with that one. We lead the Grand Prix by just over a second at this early stage of this race. With our SRC setup, I think we're running fairly high downforce, I want to say. We did kind of anticipate these conditions. And we went for a little bit of a hybrid setup, maybe a little bit more higher downforce than a dry setup. So I want to say we're in the ballpark of 35 to 40 wings, but it's a pretty high downforce track anyway. So we're not compromising all too much in order to extract the pace out of this car. It's just a question of whether the AI are doing the same thing or not. I want to say that they probably have less downforce than what we do, hence why we're actually able to pull away in these conditions. So it's going to be super interesting that when we get back to dry running, whether they'll have the pace to catch me up again. But for the time being, I'm loving these conditions. We're pulling away by half a second a lap, depending on how many mistakes we make, really. But 8 laps into this Grand Prix, and we're leading by over 4 seconds. My teammate Devin Butler is fighting away with Carlos Sainz there in the Ferrari. I don't want to say something stupid. Is that George Russell? Yeah, it's George Russell. It's been a couple of weeks since I've played this career mode, so forgive me for forgetting the driver transfers. It is George Russell at Ferrari now, but he's having a whaler of a time trying to fight his way back through in the best car. But Yeah, away we go. 9 laps into this race, a third of the way through, and is that a third of the way through? It's definitely not. It's only a quarter of the way through. 5-second lead. And looking pretty good at this stage. If it's green flag running for the rest of the Grand Prix, you know, we're starting to put ourselves in a position where we could probably defend this lead for the rest of the race. It then comes down to whether these intermediates can make it to the dry periods. I think they will now. I'm not too worried about the tyres puncturing. They've gone past their 20-odd, 25% optimal performance range. So there is going to be a bit of drop-off now, but it seems like it's hurting the AI probably more than it's hurting me. I feel like our tyre wear upgrades are maybe helping us here in this scenario of a race. But into the pits we go on lap 12. We got called in by Jeff for an alternate strategy change. So we're going on to dry compound tyres, but not the tyres that you think of. We are going on to the mediums to go the rest of this race. We only have to do another 23 laps. Oh, no, not the tyre error. The pit stop error from Marduk Motorsport there has put us under pressure. As we see on the replay, this has cost us about 3 or 4 seconds getting this tyre on, which is not ideal. That evaporates half of our lead that we built up in the wet running. And now as we head into this second phase of the Grand Prix, where it's going to be completely dry, we're not going to have the same pace that we once did. It's going to be very tough to maintain our advantage, but we'll do the best job we can. We have an advantage of 4.5 seconds at this stage, but the AI are on hard compound tyres. They'll take a little bit of warming up, potentially, and we should have, I don't know, 5 or 6 tenths in hands for, I want to say, the next 10, 15 laps, in theory. That's if we all had equal cars. We don't. The AI, at least those in the top 5 or 6, have better cars than what I do, so they should be chasing me down here, and this is going to be a massive mental battle between ourselves and Charles Leclerc, who has now got himself up in a P2 in this race. So the gap is now 5.5 seconds, halfway through the race, and we have to withstand the pace of that Ferrari. The gap is now 4.8 seconds it got down to, but we're trying our best to just maintain a good lap time. A target I'm setting myself is just to stay in the 1 minute 19s. We've done a 1 minute 19.1 as my PB lap, but the tyres are starting to go off. We're approaching, or if not already gone past that 25% drop-off range with the mediums. So from here, this is where it gets tough. This is where it gets really tough because the tyres are going to start going off and the hards are only going to get quicker and quicker and quicker. In fact, the burning off of the fuel should negate the losses in tyre wear, you would think, as we had Fernando Alonso retiring in the Aston Martin. Thankfully for us, no safety car. If there was a safety car, our race would be game over. But lap 27, you can see the gap is now 6 seconds to Charles Leclerc. If anything, we're actually extending the margin to Charles Leclerc. Somehow, I don't know how this is happening, but we've just been grinding away, just trying to be as consistent as humanly possible. That, 3 or 4 laps ago was the turning point. Somehow, we're actually churning in better laps than the AI now. We've pushed past the wall, and maybe the AI now have gone over their 25% threshold on the hards, and now their hards are just a lot worse than ours, somehow. Or our pace is just that good. Maybe it's a mixture of the two, but for some reason, it's coming back to us. We're actually building the margin to Charles Leclerc in these final laps of the Grand Prix. Like I said, it was a massive mental battle between ourselves and Charles Leclerc. I didn't want to show any weakness. I didn't want him to catch up to me at all. And we just kept grinding away. And it's got to the point where maybe he's given up. Maybe he's saving the engine to get through to the end of the season, not having to take any more grid penalties. I'm not too sure. All he really needs is to finish this race and to get P2. So maybe he's just chilling at this point. But for us, we are pushing and not giving up. We're extending the margin to now where it's the last lap of the Grand Prix and we're bordering on a 9-second lead on tyres that shouldn't be holding on this well. It has been an unbelievable drive from us today. We needed to win this race and it looks like we're going to do just so, nearing on 60% on these left rear tyres, and we start entering a second phase of degradation. It would have been complete tire drop-off from probably next lap onwards. So this race has lasted the perfect amount. Out of the last corner, and we are going to win a crucial race here in Mexico.
Guys, thank you so much. You've been great all weekend. To everyone back in the factory, on a pit wall, you've been amazing.
Ah, fantastic drive. That's just fantastic. Amazing. You deserve that race win. Well done, mate.
Absolutely mental. I can't believe we pulled that off. There we go then. That is the Mexican Grand Prix as the drivers spray some imaginary champagne. We are one step closer to putting a hand on that trophy. That's a massive stretch. Charles Leclerc still leads the championship by a long way heading into the final few races. If I had to guess, I think the points difference is, according to the game, 81 points. We still need to factor in the 19 points we lost from that race in Hungary. But yeah, just have a look at the lap times. Absolutely mental. We did not drop out of the 19s for the rest of the race after getting into them on the mediums. That is absolutely unbelievable. The level of consistency I had to pull out there just to maintain the advantage was insane. Yeah, just one of my better drives all season, all game. I am very, very proud of that race. It's very hard to kind of put into words how well we were driving in that race. And I know it might have been a little bit of a boring episode where there was absolutely no battling after turn one, but I wanted this race. I wanted a straightforward race. I wanted a boring race. And we get the result that we wanted. Charles Leclerc, really good pace, but then dropped into the 20s around 9-10 laps to go. So yeah, that's kind of the difference there. He really should have been delving into the low 19s and the 18s if he was trying to chase me down to win that race. But yeah, that one really went against the flow of what I was expecting. 81 points is the difference from ourselves to Charles Leclerc. Once we factor in the points lost for that red flag, where we got shafted out of a win, we're a little bit closer. But mathematically, we are very nearly out of the running for this championship. We needed the win. We got the win. Unfortunately, Charles Leclerc got P2, which is not ideal, but he's been very dominant this season. He's been very consistent this season. We're going to have to hope for some absolute miracles in the upcoming races to stay alive in this championship. I believe, off the top of my head, Brazil has a sprint race, so that is why we're mathematically still in the running for this championship and why he hasn't been given the trophy yet. But yeah, there we go. Many race wins needed to keep this championship alive, and many DNFs needed on the other side to keep this alive too. But let me know down in the comments, are we going to keep the championship running for another race? I think realistically, we probably should start saving upgrades for the next season. And that is the highlight reel. Literally, that was the highlight reel. It was lap 1 and lap 36. Very much a Max Verstappen-esque kind of drive. And speaking of Max Verstappen, we are beating him in the rivalry. So that's nice to see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Career Mode. There was one other race that we did record over 2 weeks ago, which I'm still yet to edit, and that'll be out fairly soon. But this race that you're watching right here was the last race before the patch that buffs the AI and made them quicker on 110 AI. But yeah, this race was done on 110 AI, and I'm continuing to do 110 AI on this Career Mode for the rest of this season, into next season as well, so don't worry about that. Nothing's going to change there. In the background, we're just going to tie up a couple loose ends before we end the video. I think we are going to claim a trophy. Lovely stuff. And I think we're going to do a facility upgrade, given the patch notes that were released about 2 weeks ago. I knew that getting resource points was going to be a little bit tougher for us going forward. So resource point generation on the durability side is a facility upgrade we're going to delve into. Get the facility upgrades, get the facility of durability up to spec 1 for season 2, just in case we want to go for someone else in the driver market. You never know what their demands are. Sometimes they're really weird, like spec 1 and facility upgrades for durability or marketing. It's rather weird, but there we go. That is this episode of Career Mode for today. That is the points difference. 3 races remain in season 1. Can we do it? That is the ultimate question. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you next time.